this comes to the part what I like the most. I really like to hear your testimonies. And Bob calls it your story. Mm-hmm. And so I would love to ask you your story. And Kimberly, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with you. Can you tell us about your salvation experience?
Sure. So I was born in a family, my parents were already saved and went to church. And it was many years we did some sort of a service providing time for other people. So it was big to serve other people and to spend time with other people. And I was a pretty quiet person, still am, and it was pretty easy to just kind of hide in the background and not really have a really outrageous faith, or I don't know quite how else to say that, real loud. And I would also, as I was growing up, I would continually re-pray the sinner's prayer because I wasn't too sure if I had been saved. And then as time kept on going by, I was in junior high and high school. Outwardly, I looked like I was doing fine and like I was just staying out of trouble. But really, it was only because of the grace of God that I didn't get into a lot of trouble that I could have. And then by the time I reached my last year in high school, I made a really bad decision and was basically put in a position of having to just stare at how bad my sin is and exactly how far it keeps me from God, and having to realize just I'm stuck in this hole, and Jesus Christ is already right down there with me and has already said, I will take you out. And having to basically face that, yes, I am a sinner, even more. So basically like the sower and the seeds, and God was pulling out the weeds basically for me. And so that was kind of a turning point, that incident in my life. And then a little bit more time went on and we got married. And again, there was just that continual point of having to know how to survive day by day, realizing day by day that my anxiety and my fears, I can't let them control me. I have to continually give everything back to Jesus because he's the only reason I'm alive, and he's the only reason for my existence, and he's the only reason that I should be getting up every day, and he's my very purpose in life. So it's a little bit of it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, brother, can you give us your testimony, please?
I'd be glad to. Well, like Kim, I grew up in a home where both my parents were saved. I can't remember a time where I wasn't going to church as a child, and I really don't have a time where I can say, well, that's really when I became a Christian or was saved. I remember praying as a child several times just to be sure that Jesus would forgive me for my sins. And, I just always remember having that understanding that Jesus was there and that he loved me. And continued going to church as a child and up through about high school. And I remember around high school, I started kind of wanting to, reject going to church. I didn't really feel like going to church. I didn't feel like being part of the youth group, but I would still go on Sunday mornings. And on one Sunday morning, I decided that I would just pick up the bass guitar that was sitting there because I had learned to play the sixth string previously, and I just wanted to fool around with that bass guitar to see what it was like. And the youth pastor saw me playing, and he said, hey, do you want to be part of our worship band for Wednesday night youth group? And I said, sure. I don't really know much about playing the bass, but sure, I'll come. And that was really good because it gave me just a lot more time to get to know the students that I was with at church. And through that, I became part of a guys' Bible study every Friday after school during high school. And during that time, we really took time to love each other and to really dig deep into God's Word. And it was a very formative time for me. I'm very thankful for that. I drew closer to God, and that's kind of how my testimony, I think, is, where it's just this continuum of God continually drawing me closer to him and closer to him. And one of the most, I'd say, extreme times that I can think of is when, about 3 years after graduation from college, I'd been working for 3 years as an engineer and had a great job, and decided that, I wanted to try teaching. I had always wanted to teach high school. And so quit my job, and we had enough money to get by for the time that the teaching credential was supposed to last, and didn't have insurance, and we found out that our daughter was on the way. So I was like, oh, how are we going to deal with this? And from there, things during the teaching credential got really hard, and it got to the point where I was basically put in a position where I couldn't even really finish that credential that I had started. So now what am I going to do for a job if I don't finish this credential? We don't have insurance. There are big life changes coming on, and it just felt like no matter what I did, no matter what I tried to do to fix my situation, things just weren't working out. And it got to a point where I just had to realize that God was the one who was taking care of me. I'd relied on my own skills and my own work ethic, basically relied on myself so much up until that point where I really thought that I was responsible for everything. And God brought me to a point where he said, I'm the one who's taking care of you. I'm the one who provides for you. And that's been one of the most challenging and hard times, but I think one of the most necessary too.